Well, in software, you can't get an idea can't get funded anymore. Like you can't get unless you're bringing a significant exit behind you, or other big names that have exits behind them already and have a proven track record. You can't raise money on an idea. It's kind of a thing that was done a lot in the '90s. It didn't work so well in the end. So now, proof of concept. Like there's two questions that in all the talking to investors that we did when we were raising our first round, you have to answer. Do you have a product that people actually want to use? And if you can answer in the affirmative to that, will they actually pay money for it? Will they put their credit card in and sign up for a subscription? It doesn't matter what you're charging, even $1. I mean, like early on, we struggled to get beta testers for the software, and we were offering it for free. And our software caters to businesses. And I had the idea one day that these are businesses who are trusting us, to help them run their business. Maybe there's like a perceived value problem. Let's just attach a price tag to it. And it was like $9, unlimited use, and that day basically people started signing up, and that sort of proved, at that point we already had people using the software. We got a handful of users paying us $9 a month. I think our monthly revenue was like $130 or something like that, and that was enough to turn around and start having a serious conversation with investors. Because if you can prove those two things, then the next step, which is kind of where we are now, is scaling your sales and marketing and continuing to improve your product. If you have something that people want to use and they're willing to pay for it, I mean, there's, in our market alone, there's tens of millions of companies out there. So it's just a question of scale at that point. So have a product that people actually want to use, and make sure that they're actually willing to let go of a little bit of their money for it, and then you can work out the rest of the details later.
Cool. Shelly, what did you have to prove to get money?
I had to have a good, solid business plan. I had to demonstrate that the cash flow was going to be workable, that there indeed was a need in the marketplace. I deal with business-to-business relationships, so I had to make sure that I was pointing out the fact that the equipment that I'm manufacturing is in demand and that companies would pay for it. One of the fundamental things, because of the marketplace I was getting into as a woman who hadn't had a lot, or really no history in manufacturing, never had a job in a manufacturing plant, I had to prove my character. I had to make sure that that Alberta Women Entrepreneurs was putting good money to use. So I had to do that in the form of making sure that my character traits were in line with what their investment was going to go towards. I have a number of years of business experience in other fields and have had other successful ventures in place, and so it, I think, played a very large and significant role in building the confidence that was necessary to make sure that they knew that they were going to get the lend back, and that they were putting it towards good use.
For you, Stanley, I'll shift the question a little bit. When you're seeking a partner to go to get more funds to expand, what do you think one should look for?
Well, especially in my business, I think that the kind of partnership that you need, somebody who has actually an intrinsic understanding of the industry, because I'm sure it's not unique, but fashion as a business, I think in part through its own fault, relies on a lot of myths and an awful lot of half-truths. I mean, we try to paint a picture that is really kind of rosy, but I mean, the harsh realities are we're still, at the end of the day, a business that needs to operate unlike any other. That said, I think that what initially I found that there was an awful lot of investors that I was talking to that actually had really the wrong expectations, and one of which was that basically we made things for practically zero and sold it for incredible amounts of money, and that kind of misconception. Or the other investor that we ran into was almost the opposite, where they tried to steer the business into directions that weren't necessarily good. We drifted into far too heavy into aspects such as manufacturing, for example, whereas intrinsically we were and should have been far more a product development company, a company that brands itself. That's where really our value lies. So that was the hardest part of just trying to not just find an investor that had and was willing to sign a check, but that had realistic expectations, that could actually bring some expertise and networking to the table.